Welcome to Golden Boy Insider. I'm your host, Bethel Duran. We take you behind the scenes with the fighters. You know the deal. She's been on the show numerous times, and every time we talk to her, there's always something new about her. And the last thing you want to do with Marlen Esparza is talk about boxing, because that's not who she is. She's a boxer. She's a world champion. She's a mother. I mean, you do a lot of things, but at the end of the day, you're your own person. All right, Marlen, ready? Let me get the bad question out of the way. How was camp?
Right? Before we talk about being a real human being.
Exactly. No, I don't care about camp. You know that. All right, let's go. On the Insider Show.
It was good.
It was great. It was the best. You're in the best shape of your life.
It was the best camp of my entire life.
Exactly.
I'm in the best shape of my life. Everybody's focused. Everybody's ready. And that's how it usually rolls.
You're so good to play around with, man. It's good. You get going. When you look at your fights and all that other stuff and you start figuring things out, this is the first time where you get to fight in Texas with the Ring Magazine belt, right? The special belt, the one that means the most significance, right?
Correct. Every belt has its like huge thing because you work for it, you fight for it. But obviously, with the Ring belt, it's going to be the first time I'm fighting with it. I'm in the top 10 now, and on top of it all, it's going to be in Texas. I really don't want to leave Texas. Again, to be honest with you, it's been good. No matter if it's in Dallas, San Antonio, El Paso, it's always feels like home.
All right. Now, before we got going, I had all these questions ready for Marlen. And then you were telling me, though, that you have a special development coming out with Nike. And this isn't a commercial or an ad or anything like that. I just found this fascinating because, I told you I used to cover basketball and baseball. So when an athlete says, oh, I'm going to get my own shoe, it's a big deal, especially in the basketball world. But you have your own female boxing boot in the process of being making?
Correct. So when I first signed with Nike, which was about 2009, they were asking me about boots. They mold your foot, just stuff like that. And they're used to everybody. But they only had Pacquiao at the time. And I was their first female. Well, they were showing me boots, like, what do I want, whatever. Not to make a boot for me, but just to have boots. And I said, oh, yeah, but you have to order them in a size, whatever. I can't even remember what my size is anymore for the male shoe. But they were like, we don't have women's shoes? I said no, and they were like, nobody does? I said no. All women, all girls order men's sizes. And they just were like, what? So they made me my own shoe at the time that wasn't supposed to be mass produced or anything. Put my logo on it, my initials. It's called the Hyper Jab, right? And then I also have another one with a little bit of difference that's called the Bolo. Do we need it?
No, you're good.
Okay, it's called the Bolo, right? And when everything started to pick up like crazy, they were like, we're not into gear like gloves, but we're shoes. So we really want to look into mass producing shoes that girls can order in their size, the way it should be, and we want your boot to be the boot. Yeah,
because I've called your fights and I always liked them. Like, her boots are cool, and you've always had the logo on there. I thought those were just like you getting like a sticker, putting it on or anything like that. But I didn't know that they were for the Marlen shoes.
Yeah, and we demoed a lot.
That's cool.
A lot. A few of the guys have can't mention their names. Don't want to be mean. But did take a little bit off my boot just for their special boot. And then I kept demoing, kept changing things, making sure that everything was right. And because the pros and everything kind of goes. Yeah. Once I got my second world title, they said, okay, I think we're ready to go ahead and do this, especially the way women's boxing and little girls are picking up. They're getting so many orders, and Nike understands that to not have women being able to order in their own shoe size is something that, they're not supporting. They want to have us make that change. Of course,
because it's a whole market available for you.
Right.
So are these going to be the Marlen Esparza boots?
They will be. Yes. It will be with my logo and my everything, my initials. But it'll be tastefully done. It won't be like, oh, it's Marlen's boot. It will be, called a certain name, but it has my stuff on it.
That's fascinating because you grow up and you're like, oh, I just want to be an athlete. Like every little kid, I just want to play for the Dodgers, like whatever it is. Like, oh, I'm gonna get my own shoe. But to actually have it done, where you're in the meetings and you're dealing with engineers who are like probably speaking a different language in science and like carbon fiber, blah 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 blah. I have no idea what they're saying. Right? How many times reading those meetings, you're like, yeah, like
I've been in a lot of meetings, and a lot of the things that I understand less of is just the numbers, and everyone's like talking about this and that and what will it take and what are we missing, and it's numbers, and I'm like, I get where you're saying, but I don't understand where the like wait,
you're like, do you have a size 6?
Yeah, it's like they're talking about percentages, and then it goes from percentages to like algorithm numbers, crazy. And I'm like, yeah, I don't.
So let me ask the dumb question, because I've never put on boxing shoes before. How much of a difference is it when you're a female putting on guy shoes?
It's a lot different. The reason is, for the majority, and I'm not saying that not all women can do well with the men's boots, but because the men's shoe size or men's foot is naturally always a little bit wider, they always have a better arch. A men's foot, same age, same in this, same everything, versus a woman is always going to be a bit different. The way we form, our heels tend to be smaller, our Achilles tend to be smaller. So you have to just wear thicker socks or.
Is that what you do? Thicker socks?
When I was growing up, I would have to wear thicker socks, or I would have to change the arch, take out the sole, put a different sole, tighten them a certain way.
This is stuff that guys probably never think of.
No, and it's my size. It fits, but there's a lot of give, or it's too tight, or.
So when you put on the female boot, did you just feel like, oh?
After a while, yes, because at the beginning they tried to do the best they could do with just my foot, right? Okay. But my foot's different, so it's not a normal foot, right? So
that's another show.
Like, yeah, right. That's my personal foot. But as far as when they got everything right for understanding like a boxing boot, but with the idea of a high percentage of women's feet and how they are in every size, that's when it was like, yeah, I can wear any sock I want and it's still gonna fit the same.
Damn.
Yeah.
I mean, the last thing you need to worry about in the ring is how my boots feel.
Right.
As there's a punch coming at you.
Right. Or wide too, because the men's shoes tend to be very high arches, but very tight on the toes, right? But because their width comes from before you hit the toes. A lot of the women's feet, if they're wide, they end up being at the toes and not really in the arch. So it's a lot of play.
This is Dr. MARLEN ESPARZA, podiatrist.
Well, I've been demoing, changing, and working on these boots.
This means
for
a lot
about
to you too. It's not just about the ego of like, oh, this is my boot. It's about helping the next generation out, isn't it?
Oh no, definitely. Because if my parents couldn't afford, if I want these boots, I order them in the guy size. I'm 14 years old and I get these boots and then they don't fit right, and I got to figure out what to do about it, because I can't tell my parents, oh, they don't fit right, order me other boots, right? You don't have money for that. It's like I literally, they did what they could do. I didn't know, and you got to deal with it. So it's a lot of those things that people don't realize that girls had to go through. And I really want to change that and make sure that, hey, if you can't afford something, or you're just in the boxing life, I grew up that way, it's not necessarily the rich sport, your parents aren't there to give you everything or give you a lot. If they give you as much as they can. So if I could cut that stress down, and just make fighting a little bit easier, then that's something I definitely want to do.
Well, Marlene, keep inspiring, because there's a new generation of girls that are coming up saying, I want to be a world champion like Marlene Esparza.
Oh,
and it's not just because of what you've done. Look, you went to the Olympics. You had the different commercials. You have your slingshot. You have the McDonald's. Yeah, whatever it is, the endorsements, it's great. But I think for you, just getting to know you over the years, it's knowing that there's that little girl who's going to have it easier than you did, and that's what matters to you.
That's the biggest thing that matters to me, because I got raised in boxing. Sometimes I come off rude, or I come off what is it called whenever you're very bad at dealing with people, socially awkward. I call them socially awkward, but it's because I always grew up in the boxing world around guys. I didn't really get to learn.
Yeah, defend yourself.
How to flow and kind of just be, hey, because that was a difficult place to grow up in. and then having to fight all those other battles. So for girls, and when I all of a sudden ended up not out of nowhere, but was blessed with all these opportunities with Nike, dealing with as I say, well, Golden Boy, that as well later, but with CoverGirl, Procter and Gamble, there was just so many things that I got taken on early, and I didn't realize how much that would affect and help girls. So I don't want girls to be like me. I want to make it easier for them to be who they want to be. And to me, that's going to be the most phenomenal thing for girls to say. And they have plenty of times said, my dad wouldn't let me box, but because of you, he does. Or fathers, mothers, I really didn't want my daughter to be in it, but because of you, I think it's okay. Like, what do you think about her doing this or that? So to be able to just have that difference or make someone's life a bit easier, especially in the boxing world, it is probably one of the most important things to me.
Marlen Esparza, champion, leaving a legacy, trailblazer, showing the way. Good luck to you Saturday.
Thank you.
This was really cool. With another edition of Golden Boy Insider. Make sure you subscribe. I'm your host, Beto Duran.